Welcome to the Rare Books Room at the St. Louis Public Library. This is one of my favorite places in St. Louis to visit because they have some of the oldest and rarest artifacts. This room is temperature and humidity controlled so that everything is perfectly preserved. I always feel very special and important when I come into this room, like the main character in a Dan Brown novel, because it's tucked away on the third floor and you have to be buzzed in. But in reality, I know anyone can visit this room. I'm not special or important. All you have to do is go online, send them an email, make an appointment, and tell them what kinds of things you'd like to see, and they'll pull it out for you and have it ready on the tables. So I had them pull some things for us to look at. They're very friendly and easy to work with, some of the friendliest people I've ever met. And I'm really excited to show you some of these artifacts because they're my favorite things to look at. This is a cuneiform tablet that is in the shape of a cylinder that is more than 2,500 years old. It talks about King Neriglissar and his devotion to the gods, and says that the gods made him a good ruler. He became the king when he killed the son of the king, the son of Nebuchadnezzar, Marduk. Most of these cuneiform tablets that we see are not meaningful things. They're things like a receipt, this many goats exchanged for this much wheat. But what's important about these is that it's one of the earliest forms of writing. They would take a piece of a reed, like a stick that's triangular in shape, and push it into the clay to make the letters. Now this one is very special because this has a message, a cuneiform tablet, that then is wrapped in more clay and has another message on the outside. This could be used to send with a messenger to give to the person you're sending the message to, and they would break it open and see the secret message inside. This one still has the secret message intact, which means that they never read it. And what is on the other side of this tablet, we don't know, because you'd have to break it to get it the rest of the way out. This is a cylinder seal that would be worn by a diplomat or a king or a scribe, someone important, that is like their signature. It's a stamp that could be rolled across clay and make the imprint, and you can see there's a little man in there. It has a hole through the middle so it can be worn as a bead on a bracelet or a necklace, so you always have it with you. You can also slide a pin through the middle to attach a handle so that it can be rolled across the clay easily. We're going to be looking at several illuminated manuscripts today. An illuminated manuscript is a handwritten document, usually on parchment or vellum, that were very popular during the medieval period in Europe. This is a French book of hours from the 1400s. A book of hours is a book that would have short passages of scripture or prayers or things to meditate on throughout the day, week, or month. One of the cool things about these illuminated manuscripts is that they're books, and since they're books, they were closed most of the time. So they didn't have light or oxygen touching the paint, and that means that the paint hasn't faded over time the way you would usually see in a painting. This is the opening leaf from an antiphonal, painted on vellum. An antiphonal is a book of music, and it was made at the scriptorium at Padua in the 1300s. These are very large books, and you can see that there is an incredible quality to this manuscript. The pigments that they're using are very bright. This is real lapis lazuli and real gold. The gold is thick enough that it's warping the page. The central image here is an image of Christ calling Saints Peter and Andrew to be fishers of men. You can see that they're pulling fish up out of the water. And the red lines that you see are some of those music lines that would be inside the antiphonal. Often those red lines would be made with a wood block, and then the musical notes would be handwritten in. It looks like they used the musical wood block as the framing of their image here. Most medieval antiphonals were not this highly decorated, meaning that this was a very expensive book at the time. It was always a really high quality work. Here we have an Indo-Persian 1600s manuscript from the Mahabharata. It's depicting a war, the Kurukshetra War, with Lord Krishna on the left and Arjuna going to battle. The colors on this haven't lasted quite as well. That's because the pigments weren't of the same quality. The copper green that they have used has turned brown over time, so the grass looks a little bit brown. This is a page from inside of an antiphonal, like the frontispiece that we saw earlier. You can see that it's highly illustrated. Most of these would not be illustrated this much. This is a very valuable book. It was at the time, and it would be now if we still had all the pages. You can see that there's a lot of gold in this, and the gold is thick. It warps the page. When I use gold leaf now, it's so thin that you can just scratch it off with your fingernail. But this is much thicker. It's much more valuable. You can see here at the bottom that central image is an image of the Nativity. It has Mary and Joseph and the baby Jesus, which tells us this is probably a song that is meant to be sung around Christmas time. All of these decorations are so precise and the colors are so vibrant. It still shocks me how much these colors come through after so many years. This is the first printed work that we're going to look at. And it is one of the earliest printed works in European history. So this is the 36-line Gutenberg Bible, or the Bamberg Bible. So after Johann Gutenberg had all of his presses and equipment and type taken by his financier, it is supposed that he moved to Bamberg and made this Bible. It has 36 lines instead of the earlier 42-line Bible. There's only 14 of these complete documents, complete books in existence today, and they're very, very expensive. Very, very rare. A lot of times, old books like this get partially damaged and they don't have a complete copy, so people will tear out pages and sell them individually. Sometimes a book will get so damaged that people in the printery will take the pages and use them for other things. And the way this page is cut, it looks like it was very likely used in the binding of another book. And that when they took apart that other binding, they found that it was a fragment from a Gutenberg Bible. This is a complete antiphonal. It is a book of music. You can see that it's very large. Books were expensive. And so to have a printed book of music for everyone in your course, for everyone in your choir, just wouldn't be possible. It would be too expensive. So these were made really big to go on a pedestal in front of the whole choir so that everyone can read the music without having to have individual books made. The vellum that it's written on is very stiff, and I love the sound that it makes when you turn the pages. Fast forward to the mid-1800s, and we have here some prints by John James Audubon. Audubon went throughout America and he made sketches of all the birds that he could find. And he tried to show their nature as well as what they looked like. So there's an artistry to them. And he made these originally they were made into engravings that were sold. But this is actually from the second edition of the Birds of America. So these are chromolithography. And these were sold as a series, as a subscription service, that you would get a few of these prints at a time. You wouldn't get them all at once because it was too expensive to print the whole book. They couldn't afford to do that. So they would sell sections of the book at a time. And then when they would sell those sections, they would use that money to pay to print the other sections. So these are on what's called a double elephant folio, which is about 40 inches tall. So these are really big. And they're very detailed images of these birds. I'm not sure how many of these prints the St. Louis Public Library has. I know I've seen about a half dozen. So if you want to see these, I strongly suggest seeing them in person. They're amazing to look at. Just make an appointment, say you'd like to look at Audubon prints, and see them all together. They're really amazing. And in this video, it's hard to get a sense of the scale of them, just how big they are. There's something that really has to be taken in person. After I looked at everything that was pulled out for us, Renee asked me if I wanted to look at some Forage Painting. And I of course said yes. This is a book where when the book is flat, there's no image to see, but when you go to flip the pages, this image appears. To do this, they clamp the pages so that they're tilted like this, and then paint the image with watercolors usually. Whenever I visit the Rare Books room, I always have them pull this book because it's my favorite book. The cover is all Italian leather. It's red and green leather. It has opals set into it. It has mother of pearl, and all of these golden flowers that you see have a garnet set in the middle of them. It's very elegantly made. And this is a manuscript. It was all written by hand. This book is The Sonnets of the Portuguese by Elizabeth Barrett Browning, and it was made for the Grolier Society in London by Alberto Sangorski and Sutcliffe. Sangorski is a calligrapher, and Sutcliffe made the binding. And the detail in this is just so intricate. And Sangorski and Sutcliffe made books like this for private collections. They were individual commissions, and they are made to just be a beautiful work of art as a book. And what's really cool about these is that there's only one. They made one book. It's not printed. There are no other copies. So the book that you're looking at here, this is the only one that exists. That's as rare as it gets. And it's so beautiful. A similar book by Sangorski and Sutcliffe recently went to auction at Christie's auction house, and it was auctioned for more than $21,000. So when you're watching this person flip through this book, they're flipping through a $20,000 book. And it's not even close to being the most valuable thing we've looked at today. On the wall of the Rare Books room, there's this painting by Joseph Leindecker. It was a painting for the poster for the Pageant and Masque of St. Louis. This was an event that took place in Forest Park in 1914 to celebrate the 150th anniversary of the city of St. Louis. It was a big, giant play that took place on the Great Lawn, and it was over 5 hours long. It went through the entire history of St. Louis from mound builders until 1914. The cast had over 7,500 members, and more than 75,000 people watched this play. Leindecker was a painter who he made a lot of paintings for covers of magazines and for posters and things like this. And it's really nice to see the original painting and look at the brushwork of his painting and how he was working. If you've never been to the St. Louis Public Library, the downtown branch, the building itself is a work of art. It's worth visiting. Just walking the halls and hearing your footsteps echo off of all of the marble and seeing the stained glass, even the great hall in the middle of the library, is just a beautiful space. The Great Hall is a space where the library often has different exhibits and puts different things on display. So what's in this room changes throughout the year. Right now, they have an exhibit based on the Stedman Library. The Stedman Library is another part of the library, like the Rare Books Room, where you need to make an appointment to go and visit, and it's all architectural work. It's not what I'm here to look at today, but since it's on display, I figure I'll show you some of what that library has to offer, and maybe that will be a field trip for another day.